Welcome back, Honors. What did we talk about today? Oh yeah, we talked about the fall of Egypt, right? So today we left off in class talking about the invasion of the Hittites during the Third Intermediate period. We talked about how Egypt clung to its old regime and old prowess for as long as it possibly could before eventually being taken over by the Greeks, right? So today we're going to go from the mighty Phoenician people and kind of their big emphasis on the ancient world, and we're going to keep pushing forward, and we're going to kind of just scratch the surface of the Judaic faith, right? So we talked a little bit about Judaism today in class, but I had forgotten about the Phoenicians. So yes, I'm talking to you, honors kids from 1st and 8th period. I'm talking to all of you guys like Roger Crane and Carly and Elena and Laura McCann and Susie. Punk. Getting that question right, make me spend my money. Anyway, so all that kind of stuff, right? So let's go ahead and get into it, though. I'm not too salty that I have to buy y'all donuts tomorrow. Well, I am a little bit salty about it, but we'll get into that later. But anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're talking about small kingdoms and the mighty empires of the East. We're going to get into all that stuff right now. So anyway, let's keep going. Now, fall of the Egyptians, right? So two great powers had existed before the Egyptians finally fell. And both of them, by this point, have fallen off. So some of y'all are probably asking yourselves, well, whatever happened to, the Mesopotamians? Well, they also had a decline as well, okay? So the Mesopotamians and the Egyptians had kind of stumbled off the edge, and they had began to fall. The Mesopotamians would eventually be taken over by the Persians, and the Persian Empire would stretch all the way from northern India all the way over to the Mediterranean. They would kick the Phoenicians out. The Assyrians would eventually own the Jews. It's a big thing, all right? So anyway, but let's keep going. Now, who did it better, though? We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Anyway, but keep going. Now, fall of Egypt continued, though. As Egypt began to fall, there was no more law. Common law went out the window. No more wealth, right? They began to lose their monetary values constantly. The centralized government collapsed, and it split into the upper and lower kingdoms again. And after all the invasions, Egypt was left poor and powerless, right? They were just kind of struggling to survive. Even so much so that 3 new types of people are going to come in to try and settle the Nile River. And cultural diffusion is actually going to be a huge impact from this, right? So new settlers in the Nile River Valley included the Kushites, the Libyans, the Nubians, right? They showed up. And Egypt was able to actually assimilate these people briefly, but it did not last, because these 3 settling communities adopted many of the different Egyptian traits, but then became independent communities of their own, right? So the Nubians was a big one, the Libyans especially, and this is then going to spread back out into northern Africa as well. So, again, poor Egypt. They're doing their best, right? Now, but then we had the rise of Phoenicia, right? So a society of sailors. Really, really cool stuff. They never settled anywhere. They're like the bros of the ancient Europe, wearing their Sperry's on the deck, oh, what's up? We don't, we don't commit to stuff. We like to just chill and boats. All right. So anyway, now, but it's a cultural group that will originated off the coast of modern day Lebanon. Now, from our map quizzes, you should know that that's over there on the right side, very close to Greece, actually. And they're going to come actually and impact the Greeks a lot later on. Now, they never enslaved by any of the empires. They did not actually enslave prominently themselves. They actually traded, though, with everyone. It was understood that there was a good to fair chance that you were going to be trading with the Phoenicians because they were a master shipbuilders. They actually created these massive, these massive sailed boats right here that could carry trade items as far as the ends of the Mediterranean and could get them there quick enough before that they would actually go bad if they were food objects, right? And they were bringing cloth from different areas, like linen from Egypt and trading it with the Mesopotamians. They were bringing sesame seeds and grains from the Mesopotamians and bringing those to the Egyptians and traveling back and forth. So they were the cultural diffusion superheroes during the ancient empire. Look at this. They bounced around off of Crete all the way over into the Middle East, all the way over northern Africa, into what Italy is today, over to Sardinia, all the way over to Spain, Carthage, big settlement of theirs. Get into that later on, though. But yeah, massive trade organization. Never really settled anywhere, right? Now, Phoenician, actually, really cool thing about it is it's a Greek word. And the Greek word is actually translated into purple people. Now, anyway, so kind of like the song you had when you were little, one-eyed, one-eyed flying purple people eater. Well, actually, that would mean that thing was eating the Phoenicians. So it's probably not a great example. But now, anyway, The purple people, though, in Greek, they got this name because they were the only people in the world at the time that had dyed textile cloth, right? They had purple and blue textiles, and they traded those with a lot of different empires. And the Greeks were one of their most popular customers as they were on the rise. Now, also, they traded with fallen Egyptians, Mesopotamians, Hittites, everybody, right? They began taking the Hittites' iron, Hittites' iron weapons and spreading those all over the place, right? They took the Assyrians' ideas on astronomy and libraries and spread those all over the place. It was awesome. And then they brought everyone's best skill to the world. So you can honestly say that the Phoenicians are kind of like a keystone civilization. Had they not been around, some of these big empires might not have actually lasted, and we could be like thousands of years behind in technology today, right? So anyway, but yeah, the purple people. So a lot of people believe, actually a lot of historians believe that it comes from a snail shell that they used to grind up and actually use the pigment from inside of it to dye their cloths with. Snails, gross. Anyway, now really quick. They also, though, created an effective communication system that got away from ideograms, it got away from pictograms, and it brought in phonetics, right? Phonetic, the Phoenician alphabet, right? Phonetic alphabet is their largest impact that they left on history. They traded with so many people that they created an alphabet that was based on sound, right? They actually created what also that you know, very, very close to the Greek alphabet, right? So, for example, the Elf in Phoenician is the alpha in like Greek and Roman. Beth is beta, Gimel is gamma, Daleth is delta. Very, very close. Minor adjustments from Greek to Roman like alphabets, but still very, very close. Very, very, very close, right? So people are going to take things and change them up a little bit to make them like suitable for their own needs. But the phonetic alphabet's a mind-blowing thing. You use one right now. You're using one right now. You're doing it right now. Like right now. Like look down. Yeah, all those notes that you're writing right now, A makes this sound, B makes this sound. That is something that this ancient people came up with. For all you know, had they not actually been around, there's a chance that you could be writing little pictures like, you know, like the Egyptians were. You could have like this guy on there and then snake, foot, hand, lion, right? So like the phonetic alphabet, major contribution that they brought with them. Also, the Hittites are going to fall, though, later on due to very, very weak leaders, which is a very, very typical thing in many of the ancient empires. Actually, it's a very typical thing in most governments, right? So anyway, Egypt is out of the picture. The Hittites are falling all to pieces. This gave way to a ton of very small, little, teeny, tiny little civilizations popping up all over the place. And south of the Phoenician areas where they were from in Lebanon arose a people known as the Hebrews, right? So this is actually as much as we're going to talk about today. We're going to get into tomorrow about the differences of their religion. We're going to talk about their text. We're going to talk about the oldest version of their text. We're going to talk about a lot of different stuff. So ironically enough, I totally told you the wrong like stuff that we were talking about tonight. But that's okay, because we're going to get really in-depth with the Hebrew stuff and Judaic stuff, which I actually really, really like to teach a lot. So like we will get into that. And yeah, the big thing that we learned today is the Phoenician people, right? And their ability to move product all over the world and to actually spread the cultural traits of many. Had the Phoenicians not been around, the Romans may never have been established. So you think about that, right? But then again, had the Romans never been around, we might not have had the Middle Ages. We might be like 500 years ahead of technology. So that's another thing, right? But we'll talk more about this tomorrow. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Have a great evening, Honors. I will see y'all tomorrow.